You don't need to change who you are to be liked. You just need to show people who you are in the right way. Most people try too hard to impress, and that's why they fail to connect. But the truth is, people are drawn to those who are genuinely interested, who make them feel seen, heard, and appreciated. You can win people over not with cleverness, but with warmth, not with status, but with sincerity. In this video, I'll show you 6 simple habits that build connection instantly and make you the kind of person people naturally gravitate toward. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind. And tell us, where are you watching from? Listen carefully. Likability is not luck. It's not a gift you're born with or without. It's not about being the smartest person in the room or the funniest or the most successful. Likability is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. I've spent my life studying human nature. I've watched thousands of people succeed and fail in their relationships, their careers, their dreams, and I'll tell you what separates those who connect effortlessly from those who struggle in silence. It's not charisma, it's not talent. It's understanding one fundamental truth. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Think about the people you're naturally drawn to. Are they the ones who talk about themselves constantly? Are they the ones who try to prove how impressive they are at every turn? No. They're the ones who make you feel important. They're the ones who listen when you speak. They're the ones who remember what matters to you. They're the ones who make you feel better about yourself, simply by being in their presence. This is the secret most people miss. They think likability is about being liked, but it's really about liking others. It's about being genuinely interested in the people around you. It's about making others feel valued, heard, and understood. Here's what most people don't understand. Every interaction you have is a choice. You can choose to make someone's day a little brighter or a little dimmer. You can choose to listen or to wait for your turn to speak. You can choose to show interest or to show off. These choices compound. They build your reputation. They shape how people feel when they see you walking toward them. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you walked into a room and people lit up because you arrived? When was the last time someone said, "I'm so glad you're here"? If you can't remember, don't worry. Most people can't. Because most people have never learned the skill of making others feel genuinely appreciated, the good news is this: it's never too late to start. Today, right now, you can begin building the habits that make you the kind of person others want to be around. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Not because you have all the answers, but because you ask better questions. Not because you're the star of every conversation, but because you make others feel like stars. The techniques I'm about to share with you aren't manipulation. They're not tricks to get people to like you. They're ways to express the best parts of your human nature. They're ways to connect authentically in a world that's forgotten how to connect at all. Every great relationship begins with a single moment of genuine connection. Every friendship starts with one person deciding to really see another person. Every partnership begins with someone choosing to care about what the other person cares about. You already have everything you need to be likable. You have curiosity. You have the ability to smile. You have a voice that can speak someone's name with warmth. You have eyes that can focus on another person's face. You have a heart that can appreciate what makes someone else unique. The question isn't whether you can learn to be more likable. The question is whether you will. Whether you'll choose connection over isolation, whether you'll choose interest over indifference, whether you'll choose to be the kind of person who makes others feel a little more valued simply by being present. That choice is yours, and it starts right now. Put your phone away. Look someone in the eye. This simple act has become revolutionary in our distracted world. I want you to think about the last conversation you had where someone gave you their complete attention, where they weren't checking their phone, glancing at the television, or looking over your shoulder for someone more interesting. How did that feel? Rare, wasn't it? That's because presence has become the scarcest gift you can give another human being. Presence is power, not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that elevates. When you give someone your full attention, you're saying, "In this moment, you are the most important person in my world." That message is intoxicating. It's magnetic. It's unforgettable. But here's what's happening instead. We're living in an age of continuous, partial attention. We're physically present but mentally scattered. We're there, but not really there. And people feel it. They sense when you're distracted, when your mind is elsewhere, when you're just waiting for the conversation to end. Your attention is a spotlight. Where you direct it determines what grows and what withers. Direct it toward your phone during a conversation, and the relationship withers. Direct it fully toward the person in front of you, and watch the connection bloom. I've watched business deals fall apart because someone couldn't put down their device. I've seen marriages crumble under the weight of divided attention. I've witnessed children stop trying to connect with parents who are always looking at screens instead of faces. The cost of distraction isn't just missed opportunities, it's missed humanity. Here's what most people don't understand. Your physical presence means nothing without your mental presence. You can be sitting right next to someone and still be completely absent. True presence requires intention. It requires choice. It requires discipline. But let me ask you this. When someone gives you their complete attention, don't you immediately feel more valued? Don't you naturally want to reciprocate that attention? Don't you find yourself leaning in, speaking more openly, sharing more freely? That's the power of presence in action. The most charismatic people I've known weren't necessarily the most talkative or the most entertaining. They were the most present. They had mastered the art of being fully where they were, with whomever they were with. They understood that attention is the raw material of connection. Think about a child trying to show you something they've drawn. They don't just want you to glance at it and say, "Nice job." They want you to really look. They want you to see what they've created through their eyes. They want your presence, not just your proximity. Adults are no different. We've just learned to hide our need for genuine attention behind sophistication and social norms. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. They're carrying worries, dreams, fears, and hopes that never make it into casual conversation. When you give them your full presence, you create a space where those deeper parts of themselves can feel safe to emerge. You become someone they can trust, someone they can connect with, someone they want to be around. Presence isn't just about putting away distractions. It's about bringing your full self to the interaction. It's about listening, not just with your ears, but with your entire being. It's about noticing not just the words someone speaks, but the emotions behind those words. It's about being fully alive in the moment instead of rushing toward the next one. Here's the practical truth. In a world where everyone is distracted, the person who pays attention wins. In a culture of surface-level interactions, depth becomes magnetic. In an era of rushed conversations, patience becomes powerful. The next time someone is speaking to you, try this. Put down whatever you're holding. Turn your body toward them. Look into their eyes. Listen, not just to respond, but to understand. Notice how they stand, how they breathe, what makes them light up. Be fully present for just 60 seconds and watch how the entire dynamic of the interaction changes. This isn't just about being polite. This is about recognizing that every human being has an innate need to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. When you meet that need through genuine presence, you become someone special in their world. You become someone they remember, someone they seek out, someone they naturally like. Presence is your secret weapon in a distracted world. Use it. The first habit of highly likable people: sincere curiosity. Ask better questions. Care about the answers. Connection follows naturally. Most people think they're good conversationalists because they can talk about themselves for hours. They're wrong. The greatest conversationalists are those who can get others talking about themselves with genuine enthusiasm. They've mastered the art of sincere interest. I learned this lesson early in my career from a man who could make anyone feel like the most fascinating person in the room. He wasn't particularly witty or clever. He didn't tell elaborate stories or share impressive credentials, but he had one extraordinary quality. He was genuinely curious about everyone he met. He asked questions that showed he was really listening. He remembered details from previous conversations. He made people feel important simply by being interested in their lives. Think about this. When was the last time someone asked you a question that made you think, wow, no one has ever asked me that before? When was the last time someone followed up on something you mentioned weeks ago? How did that make you feel? Valued, right? Seen? Remembered? Important. This is the power of genuine interest. It transforms strangers into friends, acquaintances, into allies, customers, into advocates. But here's the key word, genuine. People can sense fake interest from miles away. They know when you're asking questions just to be polite, when you're waiting for your turn to speak, when you're going through the motions without really caring about the answers. Genuine interest requires something most people aren't willing to give: humility. It requires admitting that other people have experiences, insights, and stories that are worth your time and attention. It requires believing that you can learn something valuable from every person you meet. It requires setting aside your ego and making someone else the center of the conversation. Here's what most people don't understand. Everyone has a story. Everyone has struggles they've overcome, dreams they're chasing, lessons they've learned the hard way. Everyone has something unique about their journey, their perspective, their experience. When you approach people with genuine curiosity about their story, you unlock a connection that surface-level small talk never can. But let me ask you this. How often do you ask someone about their childhood, their dreams, their biggest challenges, their proudest moments? How often do you dig deeper than their job title or where they're from? How often do you show interest in what makes them uniquely them? The most magnetic people I know have mastered the art of the follow-up question. They don't just ask, "How was your vacation?" They ask, "What was the moment during your vacation when you felt most alive?" They don't just ask, "What do you do for work?" They ask, "What drew you to that field?" Or, "What's the most rewarding part of what you do?" These questions do something powerful. They invite people to share not just facts about their lives, but feelings about their experiences. They create opportunities for real connection instead of surface-level exchange. They show that you're interested in them as a human being, not just as a source of polite conversation. Genuine interest also means remembering what people tell you. It means following up on the things that matter to them. If someone mentions they're training for a marathon, ask about their training the next time you see them. If someone shares that their daughter is starting college, remember to ask how she's adjusting. These small acts of remembrance create powerful bonds of connection. The beautiful thing about showing genuine interest is that it's contagious. When you make someone feel interesting, they become more interesting. When you draw out their stories, they light up. When you value their experiences, they feel more valuable. And when people feel good about themselves in your presence, they naturally want to spend more time with you. This isn't manipulation. This is recognizing the fundamental human need to be seen and understood. This is using your curiosity as a bridge to connect with the unique individual in front of you. This is choosing to find the extraordinary in what others might dismiss as ordinary. Every person you meet knows something you don't, has experienced something you haven't, has learned lessons you need to learn. When you approach people with genuine interest, you don't just make them feel good. You enrich your own life with their wisdom, their perspectives, their stories. Start today. Ask someone a question that goes beyond the surface. Listen to their answer with real curiosity. Follow up with another question that shows you're engaged. Watch how their entire demeanor changes. Watch how they lean in. Watch how they become more animated, more open, more alive. That's the power of genuine interest. Use it, and you'll never struggle to connect with people again. It's simple, It's free, and it disarms even the coldest room. A genuine smile changes the energy around you instantly. You might think smiling is too basic, too obvious to matter. You'd be wrong. In a world where people walk around with their faces buried in their phones, where stress and hurry have become the default expressions, a genuine smile has become revolutionary. It's the simplest way to signal warmth, openness, and approachability. I've watched a single smile change the trajectory of entire conversations. I've seen it dissolve tension, break down barriers, and create instant connections between strangers. I've witnessed it transform difficult customers into loyal advocates, turn skeptical audiences into engaged listeners, and convert cold interactions into warm relationships. But here's what you need to understand. Not all smiles are created equal. There's a difference between a genuine smile and a forced one. There's a difference between a smile that comes from real warmth and one that's simply a social obligation. People can sense authenticity in a smile, and they respond accordingly. Genuine smile involves your entire face, not just your mouth. It reaches your eyes, creates small wrinkles at the corners, and lights up your whole expression. It's the smile that happens when you see an old friend unexpectedly, when you watch a child discover something wonderful, when you feel genuinely pleased to connect with another human being. Think about the people who make you feel instantly comfortable. I'll bet most of them are quick to smile, not the plastic painted-on smile of someone trying to sell you something, but the warm, authentic smile of someone who's genuinely glad to see you. That smile sends a powerful message. I'm approachable. I'm friendly. I'm safe to interact with. Here's what most people don't understand. Your smile is contagious. When you smile at someone, you trigger mirror neurons in their brain that make them want to smile back. You literally change their neurochemistry. You shift their mood. You make them feel a little bit better about themselves and their day. But let me ask you this. When you walk into a room, meet a new person, or answer the phone, what does your face communicate? Does it say, "I'm glad you're here"? Or does it say, "This is an inconvenience"? Does it invite connection or create distance? Does it make people want to approach you or avoid you? The power of a smile goes beyond just making others feel good. It actually changes how you feel too. The physical act of smiling sends signals to your brain that you're happy, which can actually make you feel happier. It's a feedback loop of positivity that benefits everyone involved. I once knew a restaurant server who had mastered the art of the genuine smile. She wasn't the most experienced server, she didn't know the menu better than anyone else, and she didn't have any special training. But she had something more valuable. She genuinely smiled every time she approached a table, not a fake customer service smile, but a real smile that said, "I'm happy to take care of you." Her tips were consistently higher than anyone else's. Her tables were always requesting her specifically, and customers would wait longer just to sit in her section. That's the power of a genuine smile. Smiling also makes you more attractive, not just physically, but personally. When you smile, you appear more confident, more approachable, more trustworthy. People make split-second judgments about whether they like you, and a genuine smile heavily influences that judgment in your favor. The most successful leaders, salespeople, teachers, and communicators I know all share this trait. They smile easily and often. They've learned that a smile is often the key that unlocks people's defenses, opens their hearts, and creates the foundation for real connection. But remember, authenticity is everything. A forced smile feels fake and actually repels people. A genuine smile, on the other hand, is magnetic. It draws people in. It makes them feel welcome. It creates an atmosphere of warmth and positivity. Here's your challenge. For the next week, pay attention to how often you smile at others. Notice the difference between interactions where you smile and those where you don't. Watch how people respond differently when you greet them with genuine warmth versus neutral politeness. Start with the people closest to you. Smile when your family members walk into the room. Smile when you greet your coworkers, smile when you're on the phone. People can actually hear a smile in your voice. Notice how these small changes shift the energy of your relationships. A smile costs nothing, but creates enormous value. It takes no time, but saves countless moments of awkwardness. It requires no special skill, but produces extraordinary results. In a world that often feels cold and disconnected, your smile can be the warmth that draws people in. Don't underestimate the power of this simple gesture. Your smile might be exactly what someone needs to brighten their day, change their mood, or restore their faith in human kindness. Smile like you mean it, because you do. A person's name is a golden bridge to trust. Remember it, use it, and watch how instantly people feel valued. There's no sound sweeter to a person than the sound of their own name. It's the first word they learn to recognize as uniquely theirs. It's how they identify themselves to the world. It's the verbal symbol of their entire identity. And when you remember it and use it with warmth, you create an instant connection that goes straight to their heart. I've seen grown executives light up like children when someone they met months ago remembers their name. I've watched shy people become animated when a new acquaintance uses their name in conversation. I've witnessed complete strangers become instant allies simply because someone took the time to learn and remember what they're called. Your name is your personal brand. It's what separates you from the billions of other people on this planet. When someone remembers your name, they're saying, "You matter enough for me to remember who you are." When they forget it or don't bother to learn it, they're saying, "You're not important enough to stick in my memory." Think about how you feel when someone you've met before has to ask your name again. Disappointed, right? A little diminished? Like you didn't make enough of an impression to be worth remembering. Now think about how you feel when someone you met briefly months ago greets you by name. Surprised? Pleased? Valued? That's the power of names in action. But here's what most people struggle with. They don't remember names because they don't really listen when they're introduced. They're too focused on making a good first impression, too worried about what they're going to say next, too distracted by their own nervousness to pay attention to this crucial piece of information. The secret to remembering names is surprisingly simple. Care enough to listen. When someone introduces themselves, stop everything else. Focus completely on their name. Repeat it back to confirm you heard it correctly. Use it immediately in your response. Say something like, "Nice to meet you, Sarah," instead of just "nice to meet you." Here's what most people don't understand. Using someone's name throughout a conversation isn't pushy or weird. It's magnetic. It personalizes every exchange. It makes the conversation feel more intimate, more significant, more memorable. When you say, "Sarah, what do you think about that?" instead of just, "What do you think about that?" you've made Sarah feel like the conversation is specifically about her, not just anyone. But let me ask you this. How often do you use someone's name after you've just met them? How often do you weave it naturally into the conversation? How often do you make the effort to remember it weeks or months later? If you're like most people, not nearly enough. Names are also cultural bridges. When you take the time to learn how to pronounce someone's name correctly, especially if it's from a different culture or language, you show respect for their heritage and identity. You demonstrate that they're worth the effort it takes to get it right. This small act of consideration can create lasting goodwill and connection. I once worked with a manager who made it his mission to learn every employee's name within their first week, regardless of how many people worked in the company. He didn't just learn their names, he learned something personal about each person and connected their name to that detail. Jennifer, who loves hiking, Michael with the twin daughters, David, who's studying for his MBA. This wasn't just good management, it was good humanity. And his employees were fiercely loyal to him because of it. The most successful networkers, salespeople, and leaders I know all have one thing in common: they're exceptional with names. They've developed systems for remembering them, strategies for using them, and habits for connecting them to meaningful details about the person. They understand that names are the foundation of all relationship building. Using someone's name also helps you remember them and the conversation you had. It creates stronger neural pathways in your memory, making it more likely you'll recall not just their name, but other important details about them when you meet again. Here's your practical strategy. When you meet someone new, repeat their name 3 times in the first 2 minutes of conversation. Use it when you're introduced. Use it when you ask a question. And use it when you're wrapping up the initial interaction. This repetition will cement the name in your memory and make the person feel heard and valued. And here's an advanced technique. When you use someone's name, pair it with genuine eye contact and a warm tone of voice. This combination creates a powerful psychological connection that makes the person feel truly seen and appreciated. Remember, forgetting someone's name is one of the quickest ways to make them feel unimportant, but remembering their name, especially after time has passed, is one of the fastest ways to make them feel special. In a world where people feel increasingly anonymous and overlooked, the person who remembers names becomes someone special. Your memory for names is your secret weapon for building relationships. Use it consistently, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can create connections that last. Names matter. Remember them. Use them. Watch the magic happen. Listening is not waiting to speak. It's creating space for others to be heard. And in a world where everyone's talking, the person who truly listens becomes instantly magnetic. Most people think they're good listeners. They're wrong. They're good at waiting for their turn to talk. They're good at preparing their response while the other person is speaking. They're good at hearing words without understanding meaning. But real listening, deep, active, transformative listening, is one of the rarest skills in human interaction. True listening is not passive. It's not just sitting quietly while someone else talks. It's actively engaging with another person's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. It's creating a safe space where they can share what's really on their mind. It's giving them the gift of feeling truly heard and understood. I've watched master listeners change people's lives simply by paying attention. They don't give advice. They don't solve problems. They don't try to fix anything. They just listen with such depth and presence that the speaker discovers their own answers, finds their own solutions, experiences their own breakthroughs. Think about the last time someone really listened to you, not just heard your words, but truly listened to what you were trying to communicate. How did that feel? Powerful, wasn't it? Like you mattered, like your thoughts and feelings were valuable, like you were worth someone's full attention and consideration. Here's what most people don't understand. When you listen deeply to someone, you're not just being polite. You're giving them one of the most precious gifts possible. You're giving them the experience of being fully seen, completely heard, and genuinely understood. In our distracted, hurried world, this gift has become extraordinarily rare and valuable. Real listening requires your whole body, not just your ears. It means turning toward the speaker, making eye contact, nodding at appropriate moments, and using your facial expressions to show you're engaged. It means putting away all distractions and focusing entirely on the person in front of you. But let me ask you this. When someone is speaking to you, where is your mind? Are you thinking about what you're going to say next? Are you judging what they're telling you? Are you thinking about your own similar experiences? Are you mentally preparing your advice or solution? If so, you're not really listening. You're just waiting. True listening means listening not just to the words, but to the emotions behind the words. It means paying attention to what someone isn't saying as much as what they are saying. It means noticing their tone, their body language, their energy. It means hearing the hope in their voice, the frustration in their sighs, the excitement in their gestures. The most charismatic people I know aren't the best talkers. They're the best listeners. They have the ability to make others feel heard in a way that's both rare and irresistible. When someone feels truly listened to, they naturally want to spend more time with the person who gave them that experience. Listening is also about asking the right follow-up questions. Not questions that steer the conversation toward your own interests, but questions that help the speaker explore their own thoughts more deeply. Questions like, "How did that make you feel?" Or, "What was that experience like for you?" Or, "What do you think that means?" I once knew a therapist who was beloved by her clients not because she had all the answers, but because she had mastered the art of deep listening. She would sit forward slightly, maintain gentle eye contact, and create a space of such complete attention that people felt safe sharing things they had never told anyone. Her secret wasn't her training or her techniques. It was her genuine curiosity about each person's unique experience. Here's the paradox of good listening. The less you talk, the more interesting people find you. The more you focus on understanding others, the more they want to understand you. The more space you create for others to be heard, the more they value your voice when you do speak. Good listeners also know how to use silence effectively. They're not afraid of pauses in conversation. They understand that sometimes people need a moment to gather their thoughts, to feel their emotions, to find the right words. They don't rush to fill every quiet moment with words. They let the silence do its work. Listening is particularly powerful in conflict situations. When someone is upset or angry, your first instinct might be to defend yourself or argue back. But if you can listen first, really listen to understand their perspective, you often discover that their anger isn't really about you. It's about feeling unheard, unvalued, or misunderstood. Once they feel listened to, the anger often dissolves. Here's your challenge. In your next conversation, try to listen twice as much as you speak. Focus entirely on understanding the other person's perspective. Ask questions that help them explore their thoughts more deeply. Notice how different the conversation feels when your primary goal is understanding rather than impressing. Remember, everyone has a story they're dying to tell. Everyone has experiences they want to share. Everyone has wisdom they've gained through their unique journey. When you become the kind of person who truly listens to these stories, you become someone special in people's lives. In a noisy world, your listening ears become a sanctuary. Use them generously. You don't have to agree with someone to make them feel understood. This is the secret power of validation, and it can transform any relationship instantly. Most people think validation means agreement. They're wrong. Validation means acknowledging someone's feelings and experiences as real and legitimate, regardless of whether you share their perspective. It's saying, "I can see why you would feel that way," not "I feel the same way." It's recognizing their emotional reality without compromising your own position. I've watched validation dissolve years of resentment in minutes. I've seen it turn hostile opponents into collaborative partners. I've witnessed it transform defensive arguments into productive conversations. The power of validation lies in its ability to meet our deepest human need, the need to be understood. Think about the last time you were upset about something and someone said to you, "You shouldn't feel that way," or "That's not a big deal," or "Just get over it." How did that make you feel? Dismissed, right? Invalidated? Like your feelings didn't matter, like you were wrong for feeling what you felt. Now think about a time when someone said, "I can understand why that would be frustrating," or "That sounds really difficult," or "Your feelings make complete sense given what you experienced." How different did that feel? Like someone finally got it, like your emotions were legitimate, like you weren't crazy for feeling the way you did. This is the magic of validation. It doesn't require you to fix someone's problems or solve their issues. It doesn't demand that you agree with their perspective or share their emotions. It simply asks you to acknowledge that their feelings are real and understandable given their experience. Here's what most people don't understand. When someone feels validated, they immediately become less defensive and more open. They stop fighting to be heard and start listening to be understood. They relax their emotional guard and become receptive to different perspectives. Validation creates the foundation for real communication. But let me ask you this. How often do you validate others' feelings before expressing your own opinion? How often do you acknowledge someone's emotional experience before trying to change their mind? How often do you make people feel heard before asking them to hear you? Validation is particularly powerful in difficult conversations. When someone is angry, frustrated, or upset, your first instinct might be to defend yourself or correct their perception. But if you can validate their feelings first, I can see you're really frustrated about this. You often defuse the emotional charge and create space for productive dialogue. I once worked with a manager who had mastered this technique. When employees came to him with complaints, he never started by defending company policy or explaining why they were wrong. He started by validating their experience. That sounds incredibly frustrating, or I can understand why you'd feel that way. Only after people felt heard did he explore solutions or different perspectives. His employee satisfaction scores were consistently the highest in the company. Validation also works powerfully in personal relationships. When your spouse is upset about something that seems trivial to you, the temptation is to minimize their concern. But if you can say, "I can see this is really important to you," you validate their emotional experience without having to agree that the issue itself is significant to you. The key to effective validation is specificity. Instead of generic responses like, "I understand," try to reflect back what you're hearing. "It sounds like you felt overlooked when that happened." Or, "I can see why you'd be disappointed after working so hard on that project." Validation is not manipulation. It's not a technique to get people to like you or agree with you. It's a genuine recognition of another person's emotional reality. It's choosing empathy over judgment, understanding over argument, connection over being right. Here's the beautiful paradox. When you validate someone's feelings, they often become more open to hearing your perspective. When you acknowledge their emotional experience, they become more willing to consider your rational arguments. When you make them feel understood, they naturally want to understand you in return. This doesn't mean becoming a pushover or agreeing with everything everyone says. It means recognizing that feelings are always valid, even when the facts behind them might be disputed. Someone's anger might be based on a misunderstanding, but their anger itself is real and deserves acknowledgement. Your challenge is this. In your next difficult conversation, try validation before explanation. Acknowledge the other person's feelings before defending your position. Watch how the entire dynamic shifts when someone feels truly heard and understood. Remember, everyone wants to feel like their emotions matter, their experiences are legitimate, and their perspectives have value. When you give people that gift through validation, you become someone they trust, someone they open up to, someone they naturally want to be around. Validation costs nothing but creates everything. Forget flattery. Learn how to give recognition. That feels real, deepens connection, and builds loyalty that lasts. There's a world of difference between empty flattery and genuine praise. Flattery is cheap, transparent, and self-serving. It's saying, "You look great" to everyone you meet. Real praise is specific, honest, and meaningful. It's saying, "The way you handled that difficult customer with such patience and grace was impressive. You turned a potential disaster into a positive experience." Most people are starving for genuine recognition. They go through their days wondering if anyone notices their efforts, appreciates their contributions, or values what they bring to the world. When you learn to give honest, specific praise, you become the person who feeds this fundamental human hunger. I've watched a single piece of well-delivered recognition change someone's entire day, week, even month. I've seen employees who were ready to quit suddenly become re-energized because someone finally acknowledged their hard work. I've witnessed children bloom under specific praise for their efforts rather than generic compliments about their abilities. Think about the last time someone gave you praise that really mattered. I'll bet it wasn't a casual "good job." It was probably someone who noticed something specific you did, acknowledged the effort behind it, and explained why it made a difference. That kind of recognition doesn't just feel good. It motivates you to do even better. Here's what most people get wrong about praise. They make it about the person instead of about the action. They say, "You're so smart," instead of, "The way you solved that problem by thinking about it from 3 different angles was brilliant." They say, "You're talented," instead of, "The hours you put into practicing really showed in your performance tonight." Specific praise is powerful because it shows you're actually paying attention. It demonstrates that you noticed not just the outcome, but the process, the effort, the thought that went into it. It proves that your praise isn't just social lubricant, it's genuine observation and appreciation. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you gave someone praise that was so specific and meaningful that their face lit up? When was the last time you noticed someone's effort and took the time to acknowledge it in detail? When was the last time you made someone feel truly seen and appreciated for their unique contributions? The most effective praise follows a simple formula. Notice specifically what someone did, acknowledge the positive impact it had, and explain why it matters. Instead of, "Thanks for your help, try the way you stayed late to help me finish that presentation really saved the day." Your attention to detail caught several errors I missed, and your design suggestions made it much more compelling. I couldn't have delivered something that polished without your help. Praise is also most powerful when it's unexpected. Anyone can praise a star performer after a big win, but praising someone for something they thought went unnoticed, that's magical. The quiet team member who always arrives early, the colleague who helps others without being asked, the employee who handles mundane tasks with consistency and care. I once knew a principal who made it her practice to catch at least one person doing something right every day. Not the obvious victories, but the small everyday excellences that usually go unnoticed. A teacher staying after to help a struggling student, a custodian taking extra care to make the hallways welcoming, a secretary handling a difficult parent with grace and professionalism. Her specific recognition of these moments created a culture where everyone felt valued and motivated to do their best. Timing matters too. The closer your praise is to the action, the more impact it has. Don't wait for the annual review or the monthly meeting. Acknowledge good work when you see it while the effort is fresh and the person can make the connection between what they did and why it mattered. Here's what people don't understand about praise. It's not just about making others feel good. It reinforces the behaviors you want to see more of. When you specifically acknowledge what someone did well, you increase the likelihood they'll do it again. You shape their future actions through present recognition. But remember, authenticity is everything. People can sense fake praise from miles away. It has to be genuine, it has to be earned, and it has to be true. If you can't find something specific and meaningful to praise, it's better to say nothing than to offer empty compliments. The most likable people are generous with genuine praise. They notice good work, acknowledge kind gestures, and celebrate others' successes. They understand that recognition costs nothing but creates enormous goodwill. They know that when you make others feel appreciated, they naturally want to be around you more. Your challenge is this. Every day for the next week, find one specific thing to praise in someone's performance, character, or effort. Make it detailed, make it honest, make it meaningful. Watch how people respond when they feel truly seen and appreciated. Remember, everyone has something praiseworthy about them if you take the time to look. The question isn't whether people deserve recognition, it's whether you're paying enough attention to notice what they deserve recognition for. Be the person who sees the good in others and isn't afraid to say so. Be specific, be genuine. Watch how it transforms every relationship you have. Matching someone's tone, pace, and presence builds unconscious rapport. This isn't manipulation, it's empathy in action. Human beings are wired for connection. Deep in our brains we have mirror neurons that automatically fire when we observe others, creating an unconscious drive to sync up with the people around us. When you learn to consciously mirror someone's energy, their pace, their tone, their level of enthusiasm, you tap into this primal connection mechanism and create instant rapport. Watch children at play. They naturally mirror each other's energy levels. When one gets excited, the others get excited. When one speaks softly, the others lean in and speak softly too. This isn't learned behavior. It's instinctive human connection. As adults, we often override these natural impulses with self-consciousness and social anxiety. But the most likable people have learned to tap back into this natural mirroring ability. Think about the conversations that flow effortlessly. I'll bet the energy levels were well matched. If someone was speaking with quiet intensity, you naturally leaned in and lowered your voice. If someone was enthusiastic and animated, you found yourself becoming more energetic too. This energy matching creates a sense of being in sync, of being on the same wavelength. Here's what most people get wrong about mirroring. They focus on copying words or gestures, which feels fake and manipulative. Real mirroring is about matching energy, pace, and emotional tone. If someone is speaking slowly and thoughtfully, you slow down your responses. If someone is excited and rapid fire, you increase your energy to match theirs. This isn't about becoming a chameleon or losing your authenticity. It's about being emotionally intelligent enough to meet people where they are. If someone comes to you with urgent concern, you don't respond with casual indifference. If someone shares exciting news, you don't respond with flat congratulations. You match their emotional energy because that's what connection requires. But let me ask you this. How often do you pay attention to someone's energy level when they're speaking to you? How often do you adjust your response to match their emotional state? How often do you meet intensity with intensity, calm with calm, excitement with excitement? I once watched a master salesperson in action. He wasn't the smoothest talker or the most knowledgeable about his product, but he had an uncanny ability to mirror his client's energy. With high-energy entrepreneurs, he was dynamic and fast-paced. With analytical types, he was methodical and measured. With relationship-focused people, he was warm and personal. He wasn't being fake. He was being flexible enough to connect with each person in their natural communication style. Mirroring works because it sends a subconscious message. I'm like you. I understand you. We're on the same team. When someone feels this unconscious connection, they naturally let their guard down. They become more open, more trusting, more willing to engage authentically. The key is subtlety. Obvious mirroring feels mocking or manipulative. But when you naturally adjust your energy to complement someone else's, it feels like harmony, like you're dancing together instead of stepping on each other's toes. Voice matching is particularly powerful. If someone speaks softly, you speak softly. If they use long pauses, you're comfortable with silence. If they're animated and expressive, you allow yourself to be more animated too. This vocal synchronization creates an almost hypnotic sense of connection. Physical energy matters too. If someone is sitting forward with intensity, you lean in. If they're relaxed and laid back, you allow yourself to settle back as well. If they gesture expressively, you become more expressive. If they prefer stillness, you contain your movement. This physical mirroring happens naturally when we're truly connected, but you can be more intentional about it. Here's what's beautiful about mirroring. It works both ways. When you match someone's calm energy, you often become calmer yourself. When you mirror someone's enthusiasm, you often find yourself genuinely more excited. It's not just a technique for connecting with others, it's a way to expand your own. Emotional range and flexibility. The most charismatic people I know are natural mirrors. They have the emotional flexibility to connect with introverts and extroverts, thinkers and feelers, fast-paced and deliberate personalities. They don't have one rigid communication style. They adapt their energy to create the best possible connection with each individual. But remember, mirroring must be authentic. If someone is upset and you mirror their energy with genuine concern, That's empathy. If you mirror their energy while secretly thinking they're overreacting, that's manipulation. The difference is in your intention and your genuine care for the person. Your challenge is this. In your next few conversations, pay attention to energy levels. Notice when you're naturally in sync with someone and when you're not. Experiment with gently adjusting your pace and intensity to better match the person you're with. Watch how the quality of connection changes. This isn't about losing yourself in other people's energy. It's about being flexible enough to meet people where they are emotionally. It's about recognizing that connection requires adaptation, that rapport requires responsiveness, that true empathy means feeling with someone, not just feeling for them. Master the art of energy mirroring, and you'll find that people naturally feel more comfortable, more understood, and more connected when they're with you. When you let others lead the conversation, they feel respected. And when they feel respected, they remember you fondly. The most powerful position in any conversation isn't the one doing all the talking. It's the one guiding the listening. When you consistently let others speak first, share first, and lead the conversational direction, you create an atmosphere of respect and importance that people find irresistible. Most people are desperate to be heard. They're bursting with stories, opinions, experiences, and insights they want to share. They're waiting for someone to ask them the right questions, to show genuine interest in their thoughts, to give them the floor without immediately trying to reclaim it. When you become that person, you become magnetic. Think about the people who make you feel most valued in conversation. Are they the ones who dominate the discussion with their own stories? Are they the ones who constantly interrupt or redirect attention to themselves? No, they're the ones who ask great questions and then actually listen to your answers. They're the ones who make you feel like what you have to say matters. I've watched this principle transform relationships, negotiations, and even casual social interactions. When you give others the gift of going first, sharing their story first, expressing their opinion first, explaining their perspective first, you create psychological safety and emotional generosity that people never forget. Here's what most people don't understand. Letting others speak first doesn't diminish your importance. It enhances it. When you're confident enough to let someone else have the spotlight, you demonstrate security, wisdom, and genuine interest in others. These qualities are incredibly attractive and memorable. But let me ask you this. How often do you interrupt someone to share your own related story? How often do you jump in with your opinion before fully hearing theirs? How often do you make conversations about you instead of about them? If you're honest, probably more often than you'd like to admit. The urge to speak first comes from insecurity. We worry that if we don't get our point in quickly, we'll be forgotten. We fear that others won't find us interesting if we don't immediately prove our worth with our own stories and insights. But the opposite is true. People find us most interesting when we're interested in them. Letting others speak first is particularly powerful in professional settings. In meetings, let others share their ideas before adding your own. In negotiations, let the other party express their needs before stating yours. In team discussions, draw out quieter voices before offering your perspective. This approach not only gathers valuable information, it builds trust and respect. I once worked with a CEO who had mastered this principle. In every meeting, he would go around the room asking each person for their thoughts before sharing his own. He'd say, "I want to hear from everyone before I weigh in with my perspective." The result? His team felt valued, heard, and empowered. They contributed more freely because they knew their input was genuinely sought and respected. And when he finally did speak, people listened with intense attention because they knew he had listened to them first. This principle works beautifully in social situations too. At parties or gatherings, instead of launching into your own introductory story, ask others about themselves first. Instead of immediately sharing your vacation highlights, ask about their recent travels. Instead of talking about your work challenges, Inquire about their current projects. You'll find that people light up when given the chance to go first. Letting others speak first also gives you valuable information. You learn about their priorities, their concerns, their communication style, their current emotional state. This intelligence helps you respond more effectively when it is your turn to contribute. You can build on what they've shared, address their specific interests, and connect your ideas to theirs. The key is genuine curiosity, not strategic patience. If you're just waiting for your turn to talk, people sense it. But if you're genuinely interested in understanding their perspective before sharing your own, that authenticity shines through and creates real connection. Here's a powerful technique. When someone finishes sharing, resist the urge to immediately respond with your own story. Instead, ask a follow-up question about what they just shared. Show that you are really listening and want to understand their experience more deeply. Only after they feel fully heard should you add your own perspective. This doesn't mean becoming passive or never sharing your own thoughts. It means being strategic about timing and generous with attention. It means recognizing that influence often comes through deference, that leadership often starts with listening, that the most powerful people are often those who empower others. To speak first, your challenge is this. For the next week, practice letting others go first in conversations. Ask the first question instead of making the first statement. Inquire about their weekend before sharing yours. Ask for their opinion before offering your own. Notice how this simple shift changes the entire dynamic of your interactions. Remember, everyone wants to feel heard, valued, and important. When you give others the gift of speaking first, you meet this fundamental human need. And when people feel heard by you, they naturally want to hear from you in return. The conversation isn't a race to be won, it's a dance to be shared. Let others lead sometimes, they'll love you for it. People trust those who feel familiar. Learn how to spot shared values, experiences, or beliefs to create instant rapport. The fastest way to build trust with another person is to discover what you have in common. When people recognize similarities between themselves and you, shared experiences, values, interests, or backgrounds, they unconsciously categorize you as one of us instead of one of them. This psychological shift opens the door to instant connection and lasting relationships. Human beings are tribal by nature. We're wired to trust those who are similar to us and be cautious around those who seem different. This isn't prejudice, it's survival instinct. When you quickly identify common ground with someone, you tap into this deep psychological need for connection and belonging. Think about your closest friendships. I'll bet they started with the discovery of something significant you had in common. Maybe you grew up in the same area, attended the same school, shared a passion for the same hobby, or faced similar challenges. That initial "me too" moment created a bond that became the foundation for deeper connection. The key to finding common ground quickly is asking the right questions and listening carefully to the answers. Instead of surface-level small talk, probe gently for shared experiences, mutual connections, or similar interests. Where did they grow up? What do they do for fun? What's been challenging them lately? What are they excited about? Here's what most people don't understand. Common ground exists with virtually everyone if you look for it. You might both be parents. Dealing with teenage children. You might both be sports fans, even if you follow different teams. You might both be struggling with work-life balance, learning new skills, or caring for aging parents. The connections are there. You just need to discover them. But let me ask you this. When you meet someone new, how quickly do you start looking for what you have in common? Do you focus on differences that might divide you or similarities that could connect you? Do you assume you have little in common until proven otherwise? Or do you assume connection is possible until proven otherwise? I once watched a master networker work a room. He didn't talk about himself much at all. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions and listened carefully for connection points. When someone mentioned they were from Chicago, he'd share his own Chicago Connections. When someone talked about their children, he'd relate through his own parenting experiences. When someone mentioned a challenge at work, he'd acknowledge his own similar struggles. By the end of each conversation, people felt like they'd known him for years. Shared challenges are particularly powerful connectors. When you discover that someone else has faced similar difficulties, whether personal, professional, or otherwise, you create an instant bond of understanding. You both know what it's like to walk in those particular shoes. This shared experience creates empathy and trust that goes deeper than surface-level pleasantries. Values-based connections are even stronger than experience-based ones. When you discover that someone shares your core beliefs about family, work, integrity, or life priorities, you create a foundation for lasting relationship. These deep commonalities transcend superficial differences and create genuine affinity. Geographic connections work beautifully too. People love to connect over shared places, hometown pride, favorite travel destinations, colleges attended, neighborhoods lived in. There's something magical about discovering you've walked the same streets, eaten at the same restaurants, or experienced the same local culture. Professional common ground is valuable, but often overused in business settings. Yes, you might both work in marketing or both deal with difficult clients. But don't stop there. Look for personal connections too. What drew you both to your careers? What do you both love about the work? What similar challenges do you face outside of work? The most skilled relationship builders have learned to weave common ground discovery into natural conversation. They don't interrogate or force connections, but they stay alert for shared experiences and gently explore them when they arise. They understand that every person they meet has something in common with them. The art is in finding it quickly and authentically. Here's a powerful technique. When someone shares something about themselves, look for the universal human experience within their specific story. If they talk about moving to a new city, you can connect around the challenge of starting over. If they mention a hobby, you can relate through your own passion for learning new skills. If they discuss their children, you can bond over caring deeply about people you love. Remember, finding common ground isn't about pretending to be someone you're not or exaggerating connections that don't really exist. It's about genuinely looking for the threads that connect all human experience, our shared hopes, fears, joys, and struggles. Your challenge is this. In every new conversation this week, actively listen for potential common ground. When you find it, acknowledge it genuinely. Say things like, I can relate to that, or I've had a similar experience, or that reminds me of my own situation with watch how quickly these moments of recognition create warmth and connection. People want to feel understood, and shared experience is one of the fastest paths to understanding. When you help others recognize what you have in common, you create the foundation for meaningful relationship. In a divided world, be the person who looks for what connects us rather than what separates us. Find the common ground. Build on it. Watch your relationships flourish. Even when you disagree, never make someone feel small. This chapter teaches how to express difference without diminishing the other person. The moment you dismiss someone's idea, opinion, or perspective, you don't just reject their thought, you reject them as a thinking person. The moment you make someone feel foolish for what they believe, you create an enemy where you could have created an ally. The art of disagreeing without dismissing is one of the most valuable skills in human relations. Most people think there are only two ways to handle disagreement: agree or argue. They're wrong. There's a third way. Acknowledge first, then explore. When you acknowledge someone's perspective before expressing your own different view, you preserve their dignity while introducing new possibilities for understanding. I've watched this principle save marriages, business partnerships, and long-standing friendships. I've seen it turn hostile debates into productive discussions, transform defensive arguments into collaborative problem-solving, and convert bitter enemies into respectful opponents. The power lies not in avoiding disagreement, but in disagreeing with grace. Think about how you feel when someone dismisses your ideas with phrases like, "That's ridiculous," "You're wrong," or "That doesn't make sense." Even if you later realize their point had merit, the dismissive approach creates resentment that lingers long after the facts are sorted out. You remember how they made you feel more than what they said. Now think about how different it feels when someone says, "I can see why you'd think that, and I have a different perspective I'd like to share." Or, "That's an interesting point. Let me tell you what I've experienced with that issue." These responses honor your thinking process while opening space for different ideas. Here's what most people don't understand. You can acknowledge someone's right to their opinion without agreeing with the opinion itself. You can validate their thought process without endorsing their conclusions. You can respect their experience without sharing their interpretation of that experience. But let me ask you this. When someone expresses a view you disagree with, what's your first instinct? To correct them? To prove them wrong? To show them where their logic fails? If so, you're focusing on being right instead of being effective. And being right at the expense of someone's dignity is rarely worth the cost. The most influential people I know have mastered the art of graceful disagreement. They use phrases like, "I see it differently," or "My experience has been different," or "I've found that," instead of "You're wrong," or "That's not true," or "Actually." These subtle language shifts preserve dignity while introducing alternative perspectives. Acknowledgement doesn't mean weakness or agreement. It means recognizing that reasonable people can look at the same situation and reach different conclusions. It means understanding that someone's perspective was shaped by their unique experiences, information, and values. It means respecting their humanity even when you question their reasoning. I once witnessed a heated board meeting where two executives had completely opposite views on a major company decision. The tension was thick, positions were entrenched, and the discussion was becoming personal. Then one executive said, "John, I can see why the data would lead you to that conclusion. I've been looking at some additional factors that point me in a different direction. Can I share those with you?" The entire atmosphere shifted. What had been a battle became a collaborative exploration of options. This approach works because it separates the person from the position. Instead of attacking someone for their view, you're simply offering an alternative view. Instead of making them wrong, you're expanding the conversation to include different possibilities. Instead of creating winners and losers, you're creating an opportunity for everyone to learn. Acknowledgement is particularly crucial when emotions are high. When someone is upset, angry, or passionate about their position, dismissing their view feels like dismissing their feelings. But acknowledging their perspective, "I can understand why you feel strongly about this," validates their emotional experience while keeping the door open for rational discussion. The key is genuine respect. You can't fake acknowledgement. If you secretly think someone is an idiot while using polite language, they'll sense your condescension. True acknowledgement requires believing that intelligent, well-meaning people can disagree, and that understanding someone's perspective makes you wiser, even if you don't share their conclusions. Here's a powerful technique. Before expressing your disagreement, try to state their position so accurately that they would say, "Yes, that's exactly what I mean." This proves you've really listened and understood before offering your alternative view. It's almost impossible to remain defensive when someone has clearly understood your position. Remember, changing minds is rarely about winning arguments. It's about creating conditions where people feel safe to reconsider their positions. When you acknowledge their current thinking respectfully, you make it easier for them to explore new ideas without losing face. Your challenge is this. The next time you disagree with someone, resist the urge to immediately correct them. Instead, acknowledge their perspective first. Use phrases like, "I can see why you'd think that," or "That's an interesting way to look at it," or "I understand that viewpoint." Then share your different perspective as an addition to the conversation, not a correction of their error. Disagreement doesn't have to create division. When handled with acknowledgement and respect, it can actually deepen understanding and strengthen relationships. You can honor people's right to think differently while still advocating for your own views. Never make someone feel small for thinking differently than you do. The world needs diverse perspectives, and your job isn't to eliminate them, it's to contribute your own thoughtfully and respectfully. People aren't drawn to your resume. They're drawn to how you make them feel about themselves. Focus there, and you'll become irresistible. The biggest mistake people make in relationships is trying to prove how impressive they are instead of focusing on making others feel impressive. They talk about their achievements, their connections, their successes, all while missing the fundamental truth that people don't care how great you are nearly as much as they care about feeling great themselves when they're with you. I've watched brilliant, accomplished people struggle socially because they lead every conversation with their credentials. I've seen talented individuals fail to connect because they're so focused on demonstrating their worth that they forget to appreciate others' worth. The paradox is this: the more you try to impress people, the less impressed they become. Think about the people you most enjoy being around. Are they the ones who constantly tell you about their accomplishments? Are they the ones who name drop and status signal at every opportunity? No. They're the ones who make you feel funnier, smarter, more interesting, more valuable when you're with them. They're the ones who see the best in you and reflect it back. The most magnetic people I know have learned this secret. Your job in any interaction isn't to prove your value, it's to help others recognize their own value. When you shift from trying to impress to trying to uplift, everything changes. People stop seeing you as competition and start seeing you as an ally. They stop feeling threatened and start feeling empowered. Here's what most people don't understand. When you make someone feel good about themselves, they associate that positive feeling with you. When you help someone recognize their own strengths, capabilities, or worth, you become the person who brings out their best. That association is far more powerful than any credential you could share. But let me ask you this. In your last few conversations, did you spend more time talking about your successes or helping others recognize theirs? Did you focus more on proving your competence or acknowledging others' competence? Did you work harder to seem impressive or to make others feel impressive? This doesn't mean hiding your achievements or playing small. It means being strategic about when and how you share your successes. It means understanding that your accomplishments should serve the relationship, not overshadow it. It means recognizing that true confidence doesn't need constant validation through external recognition. I once worked with a highly successful entrepreneur who had mastered this principle. When meeting new people, he rarely mentioned his company's billion-dollar valuation or his appearances on magazine covers. Instead, he focused entirely on drawing out their stories, celebrating their achievements, and helping them see opportunities they might not have recognized. People left conversations with him feeling energized, valued, and inspired. They didn't remember his credentials. They remembered how he made them feel about their own potential. Uplifting others requires genuine curiosity about what makes them special. It means looking for their unique talents, experiences, or perspectives, and helping them recognize the value in what they bring to the world. It means asking questions that help them articulate their own expertise, celebrate their own victories, and acknowledge their own growth. The beautiful thing about focusing on uplifting others is that it actually makes you more impressive, not less. When you demonstrate genuine interest in others' success, wisdom in recognizing their strengths, and generosity in celebrating their achievements, you reveal qualities that are far more attractive than any list of accomplishments. Here's a practical approach. Instead of leading with what you've done, lead with curiosity about what they've done. Instead of sharing your expertise immediately, ask about theirs. Instead of talking about your challenges and how you overcame them, ask about their challenges and acknowledge the strength it took to face them. This principle is particularly powerful in professional settings. Instead of opening a networking conversation with your elevator pitch, ask others about their work and what they're most excited about. Instead of immediately establishing your credentials, help them articulate theirs. Instead of positioning yourself as the expert, position yourself as someone who appreciates expertise in others. When you do share your own experiences, frame them in ways that uplift rather than overshadow. Instead of, "I built a successful company," try, "I learned so much from the amazing people I worked with while building a company." Instead of, "I'm an expert in this area," try, "I've been fortunate to work in this field and learn from some brilliant colleagues." The key is authentic appreciation, not false modesty. You're not diminishing yourself, you're expanding the spotlight to include others. You're not hiding your light, you're using it to help others see their own light more clearly. Remember, everyone you meet has accomplished something worth celebrating, overcome something worth acknowledging, or developed some capability worth recognizing. Your job is to find it and help them feel proud of it. When you become known as someone who sees the best in others, people naturally want to be around you. This approach also builds deeper, more meaningful relationships. When your connections are based on mutual appreciation rather than competitive positioning, they become more genuine, more supportive, and more lasting. People trust you because you've proven you're interested in their success, not just your own. Your challenge is this: in every interaction this week, look for at least one thing to genuinely appreciate about the other person. Maybe it's their patience with a difficult situation, their knowledge about their field, their dedication to their family, or their courage in pursuing a challenging goal. Acknowledge it specifically and help them see why it's valuable. Stop trying to be the most impressive person in the room. Start trying to be the person who helps others feel impressive. That shift in focus will transform not just your relationships, but your entire approach to human connection. The world is full of people trying to prove their worth. Be the person who helps others recognize theirs. Kindness does not mean passivity. This chapter explores how to be friendly without losing your edge or boundaries. One of the biggest misconceptions about likability is that it requires weakness. People fear that being warm, kind, or accommodating means becoming a doormat, losing respect, or sacrificing their own needs. This is completely wrong. The most likable people I know are also some of the strongest. They've learned the secret of being warm without being weak. True warmth comes from confidence, not insecurity. When you're secure in who you are and what you stand for, you can afford to be generous with others. You can be kind without being taken advantage of, friendly without being fake, and accommodating without being spineless. Warmth becomes a choice you make from a position of strength, not a weakness others exploit. Think about the people you most respect and admire. Are they pushovers? Are they people pleasers who say yes to everything? Are they doormats who let others walk all over them? No, they're people who are genuinely kind and caring, but who also have clear boundaries, strong principles, and the courage to stand up for what matters to them. The key is understanding the difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice is about avoiding conflict and keeping everyone happy, even at your own expense. Being kind is about caring genuinely for others while maintaining respect for yourself. Nice is weak. Kind is strong. Here's what most people don't understand. You can disagree with someone warmly. You can say no with genuine care. You can hold firm boundaries while maintaining a friendly demeanor. You can be tough on issues while being gentle with people. These aren't contradictions. They're the hallmarks of mature, confident interaction. But let me ask you this. Do you avoid difficult conversations because you want to be liked? Do you say yes when you mean no because you're afraid of disappointing people? Do you sacrifice your own needs to avoid conflict? If so, you're confusing weakness with warmth, and it's probably making you less likable, not more. People respect those who respect themselves. When you have clear boundaries and stick to them kindly but firmly, others learn to respect those boundaries too. When you stand up for your values without attacking others for theirs, you earn admiration for your Integrity. When you can say no graciously, your yes becomes more valuable. I once knew a manager who perfectly embodied this principle. She was beloved by her team because she genuinely cared about each person's success and well-being. She remembered their birthdays, asked about their families, and went out of her way to help them develop professionally. But she also held high standards, gave direct feedback when needed, and never hesitated to make tough decisions when the situation required it. Her warmth didn't make her weak. It made her strength more palatable and her leadership more effective. The secret is leading with warmth while backing it up with strength. Start interactions with genuine care and interest, but don't be afraid to be direct when necessary. Express disagreement with kindness but firmness. Set boundaries with explanation and empathy, but maintain them consistently. Warm strength also means being authentic about your emotions. You don't have to be perpetually cheerful to be likable. You can acknowledge when you're frustrated, disappointed, or concerned. Just do it without attacking others or making them responsible for fixing your emotional state. Authentic emotion, expressed appropriately, actually builds trust and connection. Here's a practical framework. Be soft on people, hard on issues. When addressing problems or conflicts, separate the person from the behavior. You can care deeply about someone while still holding them accountable for their actions. You can maintain warmth for the individual while being firm about the standards or boundaries that were crossed. This approach works in personal relationships too. You can love your family members while refusing to tolerate disrespectful behavior. You can care about your friends while declining requests that compromise your own well-being. You can be supportive without becoming an enabler. The most powerful combination is warmth with competence. When people see that you're both caring and capable, both kind and strong, they develop deep respect and trust. They know you'll treat them well, but they also know you'll handle difficult situations effectively when they arise. Your voice tone matters enormously here. You can deliver difficult messages with a warm, calm tone that preserves dignity while making your point clear. You can express disagreement with a gentle but firm voice that shows respect for the person while standing firm on the principle. Remember, weakness repels people because it signals neediness and instability. But strength without warmth intimidates people because it feels cold and threatening. The combination of warmth and strength creates psychological safety. People feel both cared for and secure when they're with you. Your challenge is this: identify one area where you've been too accommodating, where you've sacrificed your own needs or boundaries to avoid conflict. Practice expressing your position with warmth but firmness. Notice how people actually respect you more, not less, when you stand up for yourself kindly but clearly. Don't choose between being liked and being respected. You can have both. Be warm enough to attract people and strong enough to keep their respect. Be kind enough to care and tough enough to lead when necessary. The world needs more people who can be both gentle and strong, both caring and courageous, both warm and wise. Small talk rarely moves people. Learn how to shift conversations from surface to meaningful and why that makes you unforgettable. Most conversations die in the shallows. They never move beyond weather, work, and weekend plans. They stay safe, predictable, and forgettable. But the people who become truly memorable, the ones others seek out and remember fondly, have mastered the art of asking questions that invite deeper sharing. They know how to move conversations from polite to meaningful. The difference between a forgettable interaction and a meaningful connection often comes down to one thing: the quality of questions asked. Anyone can ask, "How was your weekend?" Only thoughtful people ask, "What's the best part of your week so far?" Anyone can ask, "What do you do for work?" Only curious people ask, "What drew you to that field?" Or, "What's the most rewarding part of what you do?" Think about the conversations that have stayed with you, the interactions that made you feel truly seen and understood. I'll bet they involved someone asking you questions that went beneath the surface, questions that invited you to share not just facts about your life, but feelings about your experiences, hopes for your future, or insights from your journey. Here's what most people don't understand. Everyone has depths they're hoping someone will be interested enough to explore. Everyone has stories, dreams, struggles, and insights that go far beyond their surface-level small talk. When you ask questions that invite this deeper sharing, you give people a gift they rarely receive, the opportunity to be truly known. But let me ask you this. In your recent conversations, have you asked questions that anyone could answer with surface-level information? Or have you asked questions that could only be answered by someone sharing their unique perspective, experience, or feelings? Have you stayed in the safe zone of small talk? Or have you ventured into the meaningful territory of real connection? The key is moving from what to why and how. Instead of asking what someone does, ask why they chose that path. Instead of asking where they went on vacation, ask how it felt to be there. Instead of asking if they enjoyed something, ask what made it meaningful to them. These subtle shifts invite people to share their inner experience, not just their external circumstances. Great questions often start with phrases like, "What's it like to?" or "How do you feel about?" or "What's been surprising about?" These openings signal that you're interested in their subjective experience, their personal perspective, their unique take on their own life. I once watched a master connector work a networking event. While others asked the standard, "What do you do?" he asked questions like, "What's the most interesting project you're working on right now?" And "What got you excited about your field in the first place?" And "What's been the biggest surprise in your career journey?" By the end of the evening, people were lined up to continue conversations with him. He hadn't talked much about himself. He had simply asked the kinds of questions that made others feel interesting and understood. Emotional questions are particularly powerful. How did that make you feel? What was that experience like for you? What's been on your mind lately? These questions acknowledge that people have rich inner lives, complex emotions, and meaningful experiences worth exploring. Questions about values and motivations create especially deep connections. What matters most to you in your work? What drives you to keep going when things get tough? What are you most proud of accomplishing? These inquiries help you understand not just what people do, but who they are at their core. Future-focused questions also generate meaningful dialogue. What are you most excited about right now? What would you love to be different about your situation a year from now? What's a dream you're working toward? These questions invite people to share their hopes and aspirations, creating opportunities for encouragement and support. The beautiful thing about meaningful questions is that they're contagious. When you model depth and vulnerability through your questions, others naturally reciprocate. They start asking you more meaningful questions in return. The entire conversation elevates from surface-level exchange to genuine human connection. Timing matters too. You can't jump straight to the deepest questions with someone you've just met, but you can gradually move conversations from shallow to deep by starting with slightly more interesting versions of standard questions, then following up with even more thoughtful inquiries as the person opens up. Here's a practical technique. Use the peeling the onion approach. Start with a surface question, then peel back layers with follow-up questions. What kind of work do you do? Followed by, what drew you to that field? Followed by, what's the most rewarding part of it for you? Each question goes a layer deeper. Remember, meaningful questions require genuine curiosity. You can't fake interest in someone's deeper experiences. If you're not really curious about their inner world, stick to small talk. But if you genuinely want to understand what makes people tick, what drives them, what they care about, then ask questions that invite them to share these parts of themselves. Your challenge is this. In every conversation this week, ask at least one question that goes beneath the surface. Look for opportunities to move from facts to feelings, from circumstances to significance, from events to emotions. Notice how people light up when given the chance to share something meaningful about themselves. The world is full of people having shallow conversations. Be the person who asks questions that matter. Be the one who shows genuine interest in others' inner worlds. Be unforgettable by helping others feel truly seen. Humility is magnetic. You don't need to be perfect to be liked. You just need to be human. The most likable people I know have learned a counterintuitive truth. Admitting your flaws makes you more attractive, not less. When you can acknowledge your mistakes, laugh at your imperfections, and share your struggles with genuine humility, you become someone others can relate to, trust, and connect with deeply. Most people try so hard to appear perfect that they become unapproachable. They carefully curate their image, hide their struggles, and present only their best selves to the world. But perfection is intimidating. It creates distance rather than connection. It makes others feel inadequate rather than comfortable. Think about the people you feel most relaxed around. Are they the ones who seem to have it all figured out, who never admit mistakes, who always appear flawless? No, they're the ones who can laugh at themselves when they mess up, who admit when they don't know something, who share their own struggles and imperfections with warmth and humor. Vulnerability creates connection because it signals safety. When you're willing to be imperfect in front of others, you give them permission to be imperfect too. When you admit your own flaws and mistakes, you create an environment where others don't have to pretend to be perfect either. This mutual authenticity is the foundation of real relationship. Here's what most people don't understand. Your flaws and mistakes are often more interesting than your successes. People can relate to struggle, failure, embarrassment, and imperfection because everyone has experienced these things, but not everyone has experienced exceptional success. When you share your humanity, you invite others to share theirs. But let me ask you this. When you make a mistake in front of others, do you try to cover it up or deflect blame? When someone compliments you, do you downplay it or accept it gracefully? When you don't know something, do you pretend you do or admit your ignorance? Your answers reveal whether you're comfortable with your own humanity. The key is owning your flaws without dwelling on them. There's a difference between healthy humility and self-deprecation, between authentic vulnerability and attention-seeking confession. Healthy humility acknowledges imperfection with grace and often humor. Self-deprecation beats yourself up unnecessarily and makes others uncomfortable. I once worked with a CEO who had mastered this balance perfectly. When he made a mistake in a presentation, he'd pause, smile, and say something like, "Well, that's what I get for trying to sound smarter than I am. Let me try that again." His ability to acknowledge errors with humor and grace made his team feel safe to take risks and admit their own mistakes. The result was a culture of learning and growth rather than fear and perfection. Strategic vulnerability works because it demonstrates confidence. Only someone who is secure in their worth can afford to admit their weaknesses. Only someone who trusts in their relationships can risk being seen as imperfect. Paradoxically, admitting flaws often makes you appear stronger, not weaker. The timing and context matter. Admitting mistakes immediately after making them shows integrity and self-awareness. Sharing past struggles after you've learned from them shows growth and resilience. Acknowledging current challenges while maintaining optimism shows both honesty and strength. Humor is often the perfect companion to humility. When you can laugh at your own mistakes, you diffuse tension and invite others to laugh with you rather than at you. Self-deprecating humor, used sparingly and appropriately, shows that you don't take yourself too seriously while still maintaining self-respect. Here's what's beautiful about admitting flaws. It often makes your strengths more credible. When someone acknowledges their weaknesses honestly, others are more likely to believe their claims about their strengths. When you admit what you're not good at, people trust you more when you say what you are good at. This principle works powerfully in professional settings too. Leaders who can admit when they're wrong, when they don't know something, or when they've made poor decisions earn tremendous respect from their teams. They create psychological safety that encourages innovation, honest feedback, and collaborative problem solving. In personal relationships, vulnerability deepens intimacy. When you share your fears, insecurities, or past mistakes with someone you trust, you invite them into your inner world. This emotional intimacy creates bonds that surface level interactions never can. The goal isn't to overshare or make others uncomfortable with too much information. It's to be appropriately human, to acknowledge that you're a work in progress, that you make mistakes, that you don't have all the answers. It's to show that behind whatever success or competence you've achieved, you're still a real person with real struggles and real growth ahead of you. Your challenge is this. The next time you make a mistake in front of others, resist the urge to make excuses or shift blame. Instead, acknowledge it simply and move on. My mistake. Let me correct that. When someone asks about something you don't know, say, I don't know, but I'll find out. When you're struggling with something, consider sharing it with someone you trust. Remember, people don't connect with your perfection. They connect with your humanity. They don't bond with your flawless image. They bond with your authentic self. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You just need to be real. Embrace your humanity. Admit your flaws. Smile anyway. Watch how it draws people closer rather than pushing them away. People remember the end more than the middle. This chapter teaches how to close conversations with warmth, clarity, and connection. The last impression is often the lasting impression. Research shows that people remember the end of an experience more vividly than the middle, and they judge the entire interaction largely based on how it concluded. This means that no matter how well a conversation goes, if you end it poorly, that's what people will remember. But if you end it well, you can transform even an ordinary interaction into something memorable and positive. Most people stumble through endings. They let conversations trail off awkwardly, mumble vague pleasantries, or simply walk away without any real closure. They miss the golden opportunity to leave people feeling good about the time they spent together and excited about future interactions. Think about the conversations that left you feeling energized and valued. I'll bet they ended with something more than just, see you later. Maybe the person summarized something meaningful you discussed, expressed genuine appreciation for your on time, or made a specific reference to continuing the relationship. These thoughtful endings created positive final impressions that colored your entire memory of the interaction. The art of ending well starts with being intentional about conclusions rather than letting them happen by accident. As a conversation naturally winds down, take control of the ending to ensure it serves the relationship. This doesn't mean being abrupt or artificial. It means being thoughtful about how you close the connection. Here's what most people don't understand. The ending of a conversation is your chance to reinforce the value you found in the interaction and express genuine appreciation for the other person. It's your opportunity to highlight what you learned, what you enjoyed, or what you're looking forward to. It's your moment to make the other person feel that their time with you was worthwhile. But let me ask you this. How do you typically end conversations? Do you let them fade out naturally, or do you create a positive conclusion? Do you express specific appreciation for the time you spent together? Do you reference something meaningful from your discussion? Do you leave people feeling better about themselves and the interaction? One powerful technique is the appreciation close. Before parting, identify something specific you valued about the conversation or the person and express it genuinely. I really appreciated your perspective on that issue, or thank you for sharing that story. It really made me think, or I enjoyed learning about your experience with that project. This approach makes people feel that their contribution to the conversation mattered. Another effective approach is the connection close. Reference something specific from your conversation that creates a bridge to future interaction. I'd love to hear how that project turns out, or please let me know what you decide about that opportunity, or I hope you get a chance to take that trip you mentioned. This shows you were listening and that you care about their ongoing story. The learning close works beautifully, too. Acknowledge something new you discovered or a fresh perspective you gained. I never thought about it that way before. Or, you've given me a lot to think about. Or, that's a perspective I hadn't considered. This makes the other person feel that they contributed something valuable to your thinking. I once watched a master networker work a conference. He didn't just shake hands and move on to the next person. With each person he met, he ended their conversation by identifying one specific thing he found interesting about their work, their perspective, or their story. Then he expressed genuine curiosity about their future plans or current challenges. People walked away from conversations with him feeling valued, understood, and eager to reconnect. For professional interactions, the follow-up close can be invaluable. Make specific commitments about next steps or future contact. I'll send you that article I mentioned, or let's schedule a call next week to discuss this further, or I'll introduce you to Sarah. I think you'd have a lot in common. This shows that the conversation had value and that you're invested in continuing the relationship. In personal settings, the gratitude close works wonderfully. Express genuine appreciation for the person's presence, their friendship, or their impact on your life. I always enjoy our conversations, or thank you for being such a good friend, or I feel better after talking with you. These expressions of gratitude strengthen emotional bonds and leave people feeling valued. The key is authenticity. Your closing needs to be genuine, not formulaic. People can sense when you're going through the motions versus when you're expressing real appreciation or interest. Find something you genuinely valued about the interaction and express it specifically. Timing matters too. Don't rush the ending or drag it out unnecessarily. Look for natural transition points in the conversation and use them to create a thoughtful conclusion. Pay attention to social cues that suggest the interaction is winding down. Then take control of the ending rather than letting it happen by default. Your energy in the ending is crucial. Even if you're tired or need to leave, bring positive energy to your conclusion. Smile, make eye contact, and speak with warmth. Your final moments together should feel friendly and positive, not rushed or dismissive. Remember, endings are beginnings. How you conclude one interaction sets the stage for the next one. When you end conversations well, people look forward to seeing you again. They remember you fondly and seek out future opportunities to connect. Your challenge is this. For the next week, be intentional about how you end every conversation. Find something specific to appreciate, acknowledge, or reference. Express genuine gratitude for the time you spent together. Create conclusions that leave people feeling good about the interaction and about themselves. Don't let good conversations die weak deaths. End them strong. End them memorable. End them in ways that make people glad they spent time with you and eager to do it again. This final chapter ties everything together. Likability isn't about performance. It's about presence, consistency, and sincere care. After everything we've discussed, the techniques, the strategies, the principles, there's one overarching truth. That matters more than all the rest. People will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did. But they'll never forget how you made them feel. The most likable people aren't necessarily the smartest, funniest, or most successful. They're simply the ones who consistently make others feel better about themselves and their world. This isn't about manipulation or performance. It's about becoming the kind of person who genuinely cares about others' well-being and expresses that care through daily interactions. It's about developing such authentic warmth and interest in people that they naturally feel valued, appreciated, and uplifted when they're around you. Think about the person in your life who has this quality. When you see them approaching, do you light up? When you leave a conversation with them, do you feel energized? When you think about them, do you smile? This person has mastered the art of being a positive presence in others' lives. They become someone people feel better around. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's not about perfecting techniques or memorizing scripts. It's about fundamentally shifting your focus from getting people to like you to helping people like themselves better when they're with you. It's about moving from self-centered interaction to other-centered connection. Here's what most people miss. Becoming genuinely likable requires becoming genuinely interested in others' happiness and success. It requires developing authentic care for people's feelings, dreams, struggles, and experiences. It requires seeing every interaction as an opportunity to brighten someone's day, even in small ways. But let me ask you this. When you enter a room, does the energy lift or drop? When you join a conversation, do people become more animated or more guarded? When you leave an interaction, do people feel better or worse than when you arrived? Your honest answers to these questions reveal how close you are to becoming someone people feel better around. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it's completely within your control. You don't need to change your personality, your background, or your circumstances. You just need to change your focus. Instead of worrying about whether people like you, focus on making sure people feel liked by you. Instead of trying to be interesting, focus on being interested. Instead of seeking to impress, focus on helping others feel impressive. This shift happens through consistent small actions. Remembering someone's name and using it warmly. Listening with full attention when someone speaks. Asking questions that show genuine curiosity about their experience. Acknowledging their feelings with empathy. Celebrating their successes with enthusiasm. Offering encouragement during their challenges. These aren't grand gestures. They're daily choices to care. The most powerful thing about becoming someone people feel better around is that it creates a positive feedback loop. When you consistently make others feel valued, they want to spend more time with you. When they spend more time with you, you have more opportunities to deepen the relationship. When relationships deepen, both people benefit. Everyone wins. I've watched this principle transform careers, marriages, friendships, and families. When someone commits to becoming a positive presence in others' lives, everything changes. They don't just become more likable. They become more influential, more trusted, more sought after for advice and collaboration. This doesn't mean becoming a people pleaser or losing your authenticity. You can maintain your boundaries, your opinions, and your standards while still being someone others feel good around. In fact, when your warmth comes from a place of genuine strength and security, it's even more attractive and impactful. The techniques we've covered, presence, listening, validation, warmth, curiosity, are all expressions of this deeper principle. They work because they're ways of showing others that they matter, that their experiences are valid, that their presence adds value to your life. They're tools for expressing authentic care and interest. Remember, everyone you meet is carrying burdens you know nothing about, fighting battles you can't see, and hoping for connection, understanding, and encouragement. When you choose to be a source of positivity in their world, through your attention, your kindness, your genuine interest, you're meeting a fundamental human need. This is bigger than just being likable. This is about being the kind of person who makes the world a little brighter simply by being in it. This is about using your interactions with others as opportunities to spread warmth, encouragement, and genuine human connection. Your final challenge is this: commit to being someone people feel better around. Make it your goal not just to be liked, but to be someone who helps others feel more valued, more appreciated, more understood. Focus on leaving every person you interact with feeling a little bit better about themselves and their day. Start tomorrow. In every interaction, ask yourself, how can I make this person feel valued? Then do it. Consistently, authentically, generously. The world needs more people who brighten rooms rather than darken them, who lift spirits rather than drain them, who connect rather than divide. The world needs more people like the person you're capable of becoming. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. If this message spoke to you, Subscribe for more powerful mindset content. Let us know in the comments, what part hit you the hardest? You already have what it takes. Now go. Prove it.